Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, friends. Next topic on discussion is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and it's a familiar and common topic that we have already learned. This chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, like it is by the name itself, it is an obstructive disease. It's a chronic one, and it is an obstructive one. Mainly, it is in the pulmonary area. That is called it as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It consists of two conditions like chronic bronchitis and emphysema. So we'll see on its definition. Like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is a disease state characterized by airflow limitation that is not full reversible. So in this condition, it is mainly affecting the airflow, that is airway, and this condition is not reversible. COPD may include disease that cause airflow limitation like obstruction, that is emphysema and chronic bronchitis, or a combination of these disorders. So COPD includes it includes chronic bronchitis, emphysema, etc. But as we all know, right, we have some confusion with whether asthma is included in this. No, asthma is not considered in the COPD because it is a asthma means always it is a reversible condition. So we'll see what is chronic bronchitis. Chronic bronchitis means it is a chronic inflammation of the lower respiratory tract characterized by excessive mucus secretion and cough and dyspnea associated with recurrent infection of the lower respiratory tract. So that is that is the meaning of bronchitis, like inflammation of the bronchus, and leads to excessive secretion of the mucus. Emphysema means it is a complex lung disease characterized by damage of the gas exchanging surface of the lungs. We all know that is important. This is alveoli. So destruction of alveoli, that is gas exchanging space will be destructed. That is called emphysema. Next, we'll see the risk factors of COPD, like exact causes unknown. So the most important risk factors, 80 to 90% is seen in smoking, excessive smoking patients it is seen. Passive smoking also, occupational exposure to some occupational hazards, then there is ambient air pollutions. Genetic abnormality include deficiency of alpha 1 antitrypsin enzymes. Alpha 1 antitrypsin enzyme deficiency is some genetic related abnormality. So genetic reason also is one of the main risk factors of occurring the COPD. So as I told, the most important cause is smoking. Risk factor is smoking. So smoking is one of the most important cause. Next, we will see on the pathophysiology. As I discussed, pathophysiology in the sense here mainly due to some etiological factor or risk factor like cigarette smoking. The two things happen is mainly macrophage activations and radical auxin species. So macrophage activation leads to release of cytokines and growth factor, and elixir the MPPs like macrophages, and this release of cytokines and growth factor leads to inflammation edema of immune cells recruitment, leads to neutrophil activations. So in radical auxin species, what happens is inactivation of the protease inhibitors, and the totally it ends with the lung tissue distraction. So the thing happened here is as the noxious particles and gases like tobacco or any smoke or any air pollution, everything, all these are risk factors may lead to three conditions, like there will be inflammation of the central airway, there will be peripheral airway remodeling, then parenchymal destructions will be there, then pulmonary vascular changes will be there. The three things will occur here. And all this will leads to like mucous hypersecretions, ciliary dysfunction, airflow limitation, hyperinflammation of lungs, alveolar destruction, loss of elastic recoil, gas exchange abnormality, pulmonary hypertension, cor pulmonale, and systemic effects. So these are the about this pathophysiology of COPD. Next, we'll move on to the clinical manifestation. So clinical manifestation mainly cause main thing is cough, dyspnea, and chronic sputum production. Like dyspnea is progressive, persistent, and characteristically by worsen with the exercises. Maybe intermittent. This cough is mainly intermittent and may be unproductive. Chronic sputum production in COPD patients commonly cough up sputum. Other clinical features like wheezing, chest tightness, weight loss, respiratory infections. Next, physical signs. Physical signs like inspection, we have barrel shaped chest, accessory respiratory muscle part, accessory muscles will be involved, prolonged expiration during the quiet breathing, expiration through pursed lips, then paroxysmal that is paradoximal retraction of the lower interspaces during the inspiration. Then tripod positions. These are the while inspection during the inspection, patients will maintain in different positions like palpation sense mainly we'll have decreased fremitives. Palpitation we have decreased femmeters, and percussion we have hyperresonant, decreased diaphragm, depressed diaphragm, diminution of the areas of absolute cardiac dullness. In auscultation will be prolonged expiration, reduced breath sound, presence of wheezing during quiet breathing, crackles can be heard in infection if the infection is exist. Usually it is wheezing, but crackles can be heard in case of any severe infections. So next we'll see on the detail on the diagnosis. So diagnosis in the sense it is on detailed history collection. Like history means the nurse should obtain there is a thorough health history of patient with none of potential COPD, like exposure of any risk factors, past medical history, family history, pattern of the symptom develop, history of exacerbations or previous hospitalization of respiratory problems, or any presence of comorbidities, appropriateness of current medical treatment, impact of disease on quality of life, or available social family support, potential for reducing the risk factors, etc. Then pulmonary function test is another test that is used to confirm the diagnosis of COPD. Next is spirometry is used to evaluate the airflow obstruction. ABG to measurement oxygenation, exchange of oxygen is proper. Chest X-ray is very much important. Then alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency screening is done. May be performed for patient of under age of 45 or those of a strongly family history of COPD. So that is about the diagnostic studies. Next we'll see on the complication. Like main complications, respiratory insufficiency and respiratory failure. Then pneumonia and respiratory infection, right-sided heart failure, pulmonary hypertension, pneumothorax, skeletal muscle dysfunction, depression and severity disorders. So these are the complications. Next we'll have a detail on the management. So medical management, first of all, is stop of smoking, like cessation of smoking. Risk reduction in the sense you have to stop, right? Cessation of cigarette smoking is in any person with COPD at any level of severity is the most important intervention that can be impacted on the natural history of COPD. After a person discontinues smoking, the accelerated decline in the pulmonary function found with smoking slows to almost non-smoking levels. So thus the smokers as soon as the smokers smoking stop, there will be less pulmonary the pulmonary function is less lost, and the soon as the symptom decreases, especially cough and symptom sputum productions. So in this it's a simple I can write as there was an evidences, like even studies also proved that as the smoking has been stopped, there was a reduction of some of the symptoms like cough and sputum productions. So first and foremost is cessation of smoking. Next is bronchodilators. Bronchodilators relieve bronchospasm and airway, reduce airway obstruction by allowing increased oxygen distribution throughout the lungs and improving the alveolar ventilation. These medications, which are the central in the management of COPD, are delivered through a meter dose inhaler by, we all know, right, meter dose inhaler by nebulization, or by the oral route in pills or liquid form. So that is about the bronchodilators. Then corticosteroids like inhaled and systemic corticosteroids may also be used in COPD but are used more frequently in asthma. Although it has been shown that the corticosteroids do not slow the decline in lung function, these medications may improve the symptoms. So other medication include like influenza vaccine, like pneumococcal vaccine for every 5 to 7 years as a preventive measures. Management of exacerbation, like as I told, respiratory exacerbation is another most important clinical manifestation. So how will we manage? Like an exacerbation of COPD is difficult to diagnose, but signs and symptoms may include increased dyspnea, increased sputum production and purulence, respiratory failure, changes in the mental status, or worsening blood gas abnormalities. Primary cause of an acute exacerbation include tracheobronchial infections and air pollution. So the foremost thing is oxygen therapy. Like oxygen therapy can be administered as a long-term continuous therapy during the exercise or to prevent the acute dyspnea. Long-term oxygen therapy has been shown to improve the patient's quality of life and survival. Next is surgical management, like bullectomy, lung volume reduction surgery, and lung transplantation. Bullectomy means bullae are enlarged air spaces that do not contribute to ventilation but occupy spaces in the thorax, and these areas may be surgically excised. Lung volume reduction surgery means it involves the removal of a portion of the diseased lung parenchyma. This allows the lung functional tissues to expand. Next is lung transplantation. Next is pulmonary rehabilitation. The primary goal of rehabilitation is to restore patients to the highest level of independent function possible and to improve their quality of life. A successful rehabilitation program is individualized for each patient, is multidisciplinary, and attempt both the physiological and emotional need of the patient. Nursing management in the sense assess the client status, ask detail about smoking as per the history, occupational exposure history, positive family history of respiratory disease, etc. Note amount, color, and consistency of sputum. The nurse should be inspected for use of accessory muscles during respiration and use of abdominal muscle during expiration. The nurse plays a key role in identifying the potential candidate for pulmonary rehabilitation and facilitating and reinforcing the material learned in the rehabilitation program. The nurse should teach the patient and family as well as facilitating the specific service for the patient. Example, respiratory therapy education, physical therapy for exercise, breathing, medications, etc. Patient education patient education is a major component of pulmonary rehabilitation and include a broad varieties of topic. Depending on the length and settings of the program, topic may be include normal anatomy and physiology of the lungs, pathophysiology and changes with COPD, medication and home, oxygen therapy, nutrition, respiratory therapy, etc. and symptom elevation and smoking. So breathing exercise, in the sense we all know about the breathing exercise, personally breathing and deep breathing exercises, diaphragmatic breathing for exercise. So breathing exercise means a patient with COPD has dyspnea with an increased respiratory rate. So in addition, the accessory muscles of breathing in the neck and upper part of the chest are used excessively to promote the chest wall movement. So these muscles are not designed for long-term uses. As a result, these patients experience increased fatigue. So pursely breathing, in the sense the purpose of pursely breathing is to prolong exhalation and thereby prevent bronchial collapse and air trapping. So this pursely breathing is a simple and easy to teach and learn, as it gives patient more control over the breathing, especially during the excessive periods of dyspnea. Like, patients should be taught to use just enough positive pressure with the pursely because exercise resistance may increase the work of breathing. Next is diaphragmatic breathing. As we all know, as the picture shows, the breathing focus usually on the diaphragm instead of accessory muscles of the chest to achieve maximum inhalation, slow the respiratory rate. Self-care activities as a gas exchange, airway clearance and the breathing pattern involves, right? Airway clearance technique, like many patients with COPD or other condition, example cystic fibrosis and bronchiectasis, who retain secretion requires help to adequately clear their airway. So the airway clearance technique loosens mucus and secretion so they can be cleared by coughing. A varieties of safe technique can be used to achieve airway clearance, like airway clearance technique as compared primarily, that is using while respiratory therapists like the physiotherapies, etc. So in these ways, proper nebulization using bronchodilators, these way we can clear the airway. Then, like, effective coughing technique can be done. Effective coughing will help in reducing the sputum productions and excessive removal of the, or loosen the secretions or excessive removal of the secretions. Next is on oxygen therapy. As we all know, oxygen therapy is important in COPD patients. So continuous oxygen can be given can be given to the patient. As I told, chest physiotherapy is important factor and postural drainage is also important. Like in that, chest physiotherapy will give different positions and vibrations, percussions and all. So that is very important. And airway clearance device is also very much important. Then about the nutritional therapy, as we all know, many COPD patients in advanced stages are underweighted. That is, they lose weight, they looks very slim and very tiny because of the weight loss. So prognosis includes frequency of COPD because of the frequent exacerbation. So weight gain after nutrition support can decrease the risk of mortality. So weight gain is very important. So proper nutritional status has to be educated, like maintained in the patient. Next, we'll see on the nursing diagnosis. Like nursing diagnosis in the sense, ineffective breathing pattern related to chronic airflow obstructions, airflow limitation, then ineffective airway clearance related to bronchoconstriction, increased mucus production, ineffective cough, possible bronchopulmonary infection. Risk for infection related to compromised pulmonary function, retained secretions, and compromised defense mechanism. Then imbalanced nutrition less than the body requirement related to increased work of breathing, presenting dyspnea, and drug effects. Then the deficit knowledge of self-care strategies to be performed at the home. So these are the nursing diagnosis. So thank you all. So we have discussed on COPD, like it is a familiar topic. We have learned in even in a first year MSc also. So we have seen on COPD what are the definitions, and what are the risk factors, and what is the pathophysiology, clinical manifestations, and diagnosis. And we have had detail on complications, and we had a detailed on the management part of COPD. So thank you all.